Well, it's International Women's Day. It's also been over a year and a half since the Me Too movement, and our book critic joins us on the set to tell us about its impact on literature. Kathy, morning to you. This ushered in a lot of themes about power, about consent, about abuse into literature, and we're seeing these hit a lot of the shelves, aren't we?
Yes, and it's really starting to seep in across the genres, very much in the mainstream, from crime to historic fiction to young adults. And the head of independent Irish publisher Tramp Press, she really summed it up when she told The Guardian, there's something incredibly powerful about finding out that you're not alone. And what we're seeing is a lot of upcoming fiction, is authors working through this and really digging into their experiences. Now, this post-Me Too trend in publishing is also true outside of fiction. Notes to Self by Irish writer Emilie Pine, a collection of personal essays. These are just brutally honest. They dig into all sorts of taboos, and she lays bare her own experiences of miscarriage, of rape, of infertility, and it was so refreshing to read that sort of honesty and have access to these kind of personal details that we don't often see. And while the essays were really emotionally raw, warning, you may cry if you read this, there's really a current of optimism that runs through it, and strength.
Yeah, indeed. As you said, very refreshing to have that honesty. We're talking about the cross genres. It also created a subgenre, this feminist dystopia.
Yes, after the huge success of the TV adaptation of Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, also the hit novel by Naomi Alderman, The Power, we've seen this sort of boom in feminist dystopia, and sales are showing there is a real appetite for these stories exploring where the extremes of our patriarchal society could take us, although the genre has faced also some criticism for sort of, in a way, repeating the cycle of punishing women. One of these books is called Vox by US author Christina Dalcher, and in this novel, all women and girls across the United States have been fitted with metal bracelets, and they've only got 100 words that they're allowed to speak every day, and if they go over that, they suffer these horrible electric shocks. Pens, book, paper, all forbidden. Now, Christina Dalcher, she told France 24 that while this book was written after Me Too, before Me Too, it was inspired by women increasingly speaking out.
Women's voices were growing even stronger. So I imagined, actually, that there must be somebody somewhere in the world who was thinking to himself, or maybe herself, oh, I wish they would just shut up. So really, it was more of a reaction to women protesting more.
And you can watch that full interview with Christina Dalcher on France 24's Encore show later today.
Now, Kathy, you've been reading a number of new books that have been talking about these themes. What have you got for us?
So I've been reading Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. She's a Korean-American author, a former Pulitzer Prize finalist. The book's set in the 80s in a high school specializing in performing arts, and it explores interconnecting relationships between students and their drama teacher. Again, it's talking about consent, about the abuse of power, about gender dynamics, and explores the unreliability of memory, the line between storytelling and truth. And there's this interesting shift in the middle of the book, a shift in the narrative voice, which twists everything around and turns everything on its head. And it's really a very cleverly, well-written, cuttingly witty book. I really recommend it.
Now, we've been speaking a lot about female authors, but Kathy, a number of male authors also delving into these themes, aren't they?
Well, I've been reading Jamel Brinkley's debut collection, A Lucky Man, and this was published in the US last year and will be coming out in the UK and France a bit later. It's the story. Stories are about characters transitioning from boyhood to manhood, and also about the black male experience. And we see these snapshots of characters at a moment where they're just beginning to question the inherited ideas about gender, and through them, Brinkley really challenges toxic masculinity. But he does so sort of gently and with humour, and in a way that made me really warm to these characters that I also found fairly infuriating. So I was surprised by how moved I was by some of these stories. It was unlike anything I'd read before, and I'd really like to read some more by this author.
Indeed, important ideas for this, the International Women's Day. Thank you very much, Cathy. Cathy Clifford, our book critic. Stay tuned, more news coming up on